Hi, everybody. I think today I'm going to talk about what it actually means to wake up to the self. What is it? What's the difference between what's the difference between not being awake to the self and being awake to the self? Well, there's less difference than you might think because nothing on one level, the relative, regular life, the ups and downs keep going on. But what doesn't keep going on is that those ups and downs no longer affect the self. They no longer affect this unified sense that is there. And this unified sense has a continuum of feeling from inside to outside, where the outside is the inside and the inside is the outside. It's a very natural, simple experience. Putting it into words like that sounds like it's very specific. But self-realization is not specific. It's what? It's unbounded or universal. Those are big words. And the quality of self-realization doesn't necessarily feel unbounded. It's just that there's no boundaries there. Maybe it is a word like universal. Maybe it doesn't feel universal. Maybe it's a silence, a stillness. I've been watching this process in meetings that I have, you know, 4 or 5 meetings every week, and they've been doing these meetings for a long, long time. And the thing is, I might ask a person, let's say there's some people here, and I say, well, do you have any stillness or silence? This is maybe a long-term meditator, somebody who's been meditating for years, maybe decades, or doing some spiritual practice for a long time successfully. I say, do you have some stillness or silence? And many people, if not almost everybody, will say, yeah, there's something there. Yeah, it's there. And I might say something like, is it there now? And they'll say, yeah, I think it's there. Yeah, it's there. What do you call that? And they'll say something like, well, it's not really anything special, right? Well, the definition of self-realization is that there's a stillness. You might say it's inside, or you might say it's outside, or you might say it's both. But that stillness of the self, that knowingness of the self, hey, it's there. That's the experience of realizing the self. Maybe you'll say it's temporary, and then I'll say, can you find it at any time? And many people will say, yeah, I can find it. Can you find it now? Yeah, I can find it now. So if you can find it, it must have been there, right? You forgot it. And they'll say, yeah, I don't normally think about it as anything special. Well, it's not anything specific. It's the knower or the experiencer finding himself or herself. And that experience is so natural, so simple that it probably just snuck up. It came up behind you or something, and there it is. The definition of realization, in the simplest way that I could put it, is that the feeling of, or the experience of, that stillness, that knowingness, or that sight for some people, that sound for, but it's a quietness. It's just there. If you can find it, it's there. And really, if it's there while you're using your eyes, or you're talking to me, or you're in a group, or you're eating your meal, but you can still find the self, this quietness, then that quietness is probably permanent, because you can find it in activity. In fact, the experience of self-realization is that the knower or the experiencer is available out of meditation, eyes open. And if it's always there or always can be found, then you're either on the verge of self-realization or you're already there. Now, the trick is It's not just having the experience that counts. You actually have to accept it. Wait a minute. What's that mean? I have to accept it. Well, if you say it's nothing, then it's nothing. If you actually have both the experience and the understanding that that experience is the realized state, something something special happens. It doesn't just happen if you have the silence. It happens if you have the stillness or the silence, and you have the understanding of what that is. You have the acknowledgement that this is self-realization. You don't have to tell that to anybody else, okay? You can whisper it to yourself. You don't have to go around proclaiming anything, okay? It's just there. So what's missing, particularly in long-term meditators or TM meditators or spiritual practitioners who have done, successful processes for a long time, they've developed silence. There's a stillness there. There's a continuity of experience there. And they can find it at will. But they often don't recognize it. They don't acknowledge it. They don't what? They just don't acknowledge it. They don't accept it as something. It isn't something. It's what is. It's the self, the knower, the experiencer, the what? We call it unboundedness because there's no boundaries. But if there's no boundaries, there's also no specificity. It's just a feeling of unified consciousness, some kind of quality to the self that your immediate environment somehow feels friendly to you and it's not outside the experience of a unified feeling. It's a feeling. Now you need both. You need to have that stillness of the self, and then you have to have the knowledge of it, the knowingness. You know what it is, because up until you can have this experience for years and years, it's snuck up on you year after year, doing your meditation techniques. You come into activity, you assume it's gone. If you can find it in meditation, you just forgot it momentarily. You go in and out of meditation, in and out of meditation. It gets stronger and stronger and stronger. But you don't see the strongness of it because it's so natural. Maybe you sense that, yes, I'm different than I was in the way back when. But it does, the transformation to realization, to the unified sense of realization, doesn't come until the experience itself has a knowingness quality to it, has a quality to it that you accept, and you suddenly say, because you've been meditating along, and yes, good things are happening. At some point, it's inevitable that you'll say to yourself, what is this? And what this is, this silence, this stillness is, when you actually look at it as if it's your own experience, I get it, I am that, a transformation can take place. It doesn't take place just because you have the silence and the stillness. You also have to have the understanding. You have to have you have to have the gall to say, this simplicity is the self, and it's always there. Your ups and downs and this and that in the relative, your life keeps going on. Of course it keeps going on. Where could it go? You're still going to sleep. You're still going to wake up. You're going to do this. You might even get angry. But none of that stuff that you're living in regular life will now affect the self. But once you've made the admission to yourself that the self is there, it's permanent. At that point, the transformation can take place. Some people it's dramatic. Most people it's not. You kind of ooze into it. You kind of as if fall into it. The experience is so natural and so simple that anybody can be forgiven for not recognizing it. And you don't want it. Nobody wants to use the word realization or enlightenment. It doesn't feel like any of those things. It feels like something you've come home, you've arrived. It's nice. Something permanent in your life has taken hold. Something permanent in your life has taken hold. That's the self, the knower, the experiencer is there. But you got to have the experience and you got to have the understanding. That's why meetings, these meetings I have, I watch people go through this process, and I go through this process and they say something. I'll ask them, you have the silence to say, well, yeah, it's there. Yeah. And then I'll say, well, is it always there? Yeah, it's there. I can find it. But until they admit to themselves, or when they admit to themselves that this is the experience they've been looking for, some people will say something like, I watched this one fellow, and he said, it was such a relief. I said, what was a relief? It's like the grip of the relative loosened. It no longer grabbed me here and grabbed me there, but everything seemed to keep going exactly the same way it's all been going, but the grip was gone. The overpowering influence of the ups and downs of regular life got lost. Another person, a lady, basically said, Harri, what just happened? I feel like I arrived. And I said, well, time will tell. And some years later, she's still in that state. Yeah. Now, having said that, it's kind of interesting to note, you get to this unified state, to this state of realization. I get it. I got it. I got the experience and I know what it is. And I've had a transformation and it's great. But it keeps changing. It doesn't ever go back because now it's permanent. But it goes forward. So you got a new experience a month later or 2 months later, and you've acclimated to the experience. It just seems it's always there, but there's more and more. So I think I'm going to have another one of these meetings in about 2 weeks. And I'm going to talk about why should we talk about it? Why should we have a group and discuss it? Well, just quickly, if there's other people who have had this experience of waking up and they describe it to you, you're a lot more, it's more probable that you'll believe it than if just I'm saying it. All right. See you soon again. Bye.